My wife told you about Chris. There's not a whole lot more I can say. There's a few areas I'll try to amplify on to give you a better understanding of some of his achievements, some of his goals, and so forth. I remember being at work the day Mary found out that we were going to have a little boy. She came to work downstairs at the TVA towers, began to have me paged to come down, and I never will forget that day, how happy I was, the fact that we were going to have a little boy. I was on up in years, 41 years old, and I had an interest in baseball. I played baseball through high school and followed all the teams throughout the years. At one time, me and my cousin could name every player on every roster in the major leagues. And that's what I wanted Chris to do. And I started him in at T-ball before he started kindergarten. We went through at least 14 years of baseball, from the rec teams, traveling teams, to the Halls High School baseball team. And we traveled with the traveling teams to national championship tournaments in New Orleans, Minneapolis, Orlando, and a number of other cities. We had a wonderful time during those years, and I'll never forget them. In his room, which we still maintain like he left it, there's 31 trophies. They sit on 2 dressers, along with 4 medallions hanging on ribbons, showing his achievements in that field. I go up to his room from time to time, but the room really is empty, regardless of how many trophies, medallions, ribbons are there. In his room, there's still 23 blue ribbons that were awarded to him for first place finishes going back several years to the Brickey Elementary School field days. And all those ribbons he pinned on his grandmother Gray, who sat there so proudly in the hot sun, cheering him on. Chris's grandmother suffered a stroke shortly after his death and now resides in a nursing home. In the window of that room, she has a picture of Chris and Channon. She has that picture positioned in an exact location so that she can see it from anywhere in her room. Several nurses' aides have already learned that you better leave that picture alone. You better not move that picture, or you'll receive the wrath of her if you move that picture. As Mary has said, Chris we believe, would have been a great father due to the fondness he showed for his nieces and nephews, and they were fond of him. Generally, when the nieces and nephews came over, they came busting through the door, yelling and carrying on. First question they'd ask, "Is Uncle Chris here?" And if the answer was affirmative, up the stairs they went to his bedroom. It didn't make a whole lot of difference whether he was asleep or awake, because soon afterwards he'd be awake. Grandma and Grandpa was kind of left as a secondary when Chris was home. We didn't get a whole lot of attention from the nieces and nephews. And now those kids are left with an emptiness and sadness and I've been deprived of spoiling his kids, then sending them home for disciplinary purposes like grandparents are supposed to do. While still in school, Chris joined the Young Life group at Halls High School and attended the Windy Gap summer sessions, sponsored by the Knox County Young Life organization, for 2 straight years. On his return, he joined the Beaver Dam Baptist Church in Halls, and this is where his funeral was held. And we received friends for 7 straight hours. Floral arrangement on his casket contained 4 of his favorite caps that he wore down through the years. His guest book has remained open and has been paid for by some of the family's loyal friends. The number of pages now total well over 100. As Mary has mentioned, Chris had artistic talent, and he won the Halls Middle School Gallery Award with a charcoal sketch entitled Human Life. This hung in the school for several years, and we retrieved it later on, and it now hangs in our home. After receiving his certification as a mechanic for motorcycle and watercraft from the American Motorcycle Institute in Daytona Beach, Chris started working for a repair shop in Oak Ridge, as Mary's related to you. He became friends with a young black kid still in high school who came in the afternoons to work. This young black kid, Travis, was helping support his family. This young man had no transportation, so Chris would take him home at night in the Scarborough Village there in Oak Ridge, which is a predominantly black community, after the shop closed. Later, when Chris met his untimely death, this young man hitchhiked to Chris's funeral. And I'll never forget the sadness of his expression. There was tears rolling down his cheeks. Chris would hardly say anything bad about anyone, and I remember him admonishing me one day when I said something about one of his friends. During that conversation, he was putting armor on his truck tires, and he must have used gallons of that stuff. And he looked up at me and said, "Dad," after I had said something about one of his friends, he said, "Dad, you don't have to say things like that about him. He's had a rough time, and I'll never forget that." Chris's friends honored his memory during 3 of their weddings. His older brother, Dennis, also did by positioning an 11:14 portrait at the altar. One of his co-workers with Bailey and Fry Construction Company, which was one of the caps on his floral arrangement on his casket, told us he never wanted to forget Chris. So he named his son Ryland Christopher, born after Chris's death. Since January the 7th, 2007, I've turned down numerous job offers as a consultant, subcontractor, to remain here close to my family and attend every court hearing, which now numbers around 125 or 30 thus far. And this has resulted in thousands of dollars of lost income. And let me make it clear, I am not soliciting donations. But this loss of income really doesn't bother me anymore, because if I could have my son back, for just a short time to tell him again how much I love him. I'd give all the money I have, all the money I would ever earn, and go live on the street. That's how much I miss him. There will always, in our family, be an emptiness created by this senseless death of Chris and Channon. A statement from one of our 8-year-old granddaughters. Although we may just have one. Left me in tears and not really knowing what to say. She looked up at me with those beautiful blue eyes and said, "I miss Uncle Chris so much." We'll get together with the 3 remaining children, 9 grandkids, and we'll bring Grandma Gray in the mobility van from the nursing home for Christmas this year. And after the presents are exchanged and unwrapped, and the ones who wanted toys instead of clothes express their dismay, and several of the older kids and adults will schedule secret trips to the exchange department on the 26th of December, because nothing ever fits, or they'll try to exchange it for something else. On that Christmas Day, I'll look around and there'll still be an emptiness. Chris won't be there. And Sammy, she'll come and give Grandpa another hug because she realized she can upgrade her presents based on the number of hugs she gives Grandpa. She'll look up at me and she'll remind me how much she misses Chris. This year, as you people gather to celebrate Christmas with your family, and talk about your achievements and your profession, remember the Newsom and Christian families, because we both will have an empty place at our table. We lost 2 great kids, not just one. Jake Mabey of the Hall Shopper coined a phrase using some baseball lingo while doing an article honoring Chris, which included some of his baseball achievements and statements from friends as how much they thought of Chris in the Hall's community, which I'd like to repeat for you. He says, "No one can hurt Chris Newsom anymore, and he doesn't even have to run real fast around third base anymore to beat the throw to home plate, because Chris Newsom is safe at home." A lot of people have asked us and have pointedly asked me many times, what has sustained me through this ordeal? And it's been terrible, I'll tell you that. We believe we'll see these kids again someday. And I appreciate you letting me come before you and express my feelings. Thank you.